Hey, welcome back to the Glycogen Cycling channel. So today I'm going to do a 20-minute power test and basically go over my mentality while I'm doing it and how you can have the most successful test possible. So let's get warmed up and do a max effort. All right, here we go. 20-minute power test. And I know I called this video how to do your best 20-minute power. And I'm going to tell you how to do that, but this is going to be an example basically of what not to do because I paced this so bad. And part of the reason that is just because I haven't really been doing threshold intervals yet. I'm still on my base period. And if you want to know more about that training plan, check out the video in the top right corner. I actually have done two so far, just breaking down my plan I'm doing. But the last time I did this 20-minute test was 3 weeks ago with 2 weeks of base training. So basically just riding around zone 2, did a couple group rides with some efforts, but never really went out to do strict intervals. There was one day I did sweet spot, but other than that, I haven't been training this. And one thing I've learned over the years is just it takes time to pace and learn how to pace yourself and know what you can hold. And that's kind of like my first tip is if this is your first time doing a 20-minute power test, you're not going to do your best time. It's just the fact of the matter is like you can't go out there, know what you can hold for 20 minutes if you've never done it before. So this is definitely like a process that takes, months, years to actually know what your body can do at a certain time of year and, with certain training, etc. So, and in all reality, if you're a couple watts off, it really doesn't matter unless you're trying to, measure PPs. But, if you are training like 2 watts below what you should be, you're never going to be that specific where it really matters in your training. And that's really the point of a 20-minute power test, is to just get a measurement to use for your other workouts. So it's just like a baseline basically of where you're at and how to measure progress. And whether you are good at 20-minute tests or not, I mean, in all reality, if you want to base your workouts based on like a 5-minute power or whatever, obviously, basically the overall workout scene is all really based on 20-minute power tests. So if you want to base it off 5-minute power, it's going to be kind of tricky and you'll have to like do a lot of stuff on your own. But 20 minutes is basically what everyone accepts as how to test your threshold. There's another one. I know Trainer Road does like 2 8-minute tests. I haven't really looked into that much, but that being said, here we go. So starting this off, I was expecting to hold like 370. So the test before this, I did 350 watts for 20 minutes. And since then, I had a bike fit. So basically, my saddle height was like half an inch too high. And because of that, I was putting out, I feel way more comfortable on the bike. So I thought I could do, at least 10 watts more, which I still think I could do, but we'll get that to later on in the video. So I was shooting for like 370, and I always do this. The first like 5 minutes, I go out and go just crazy and kill it and hold like 400 watts for, the first 5 minutes, which you're going to see. Every like 5-minute intervals, I put down what my average power was, because there's not really a gauge to to tell you what your average power was for a given time interval. Maybe I may like develop that, because that seems like a pretty common thing that people want. But that being said, you'll see here in about 10 seconds my average power for the first 5 minutes, and you can see my heart rate's at 172, which is like high zone 5 for me. The first 5 minutes I felt good, so 393 watts, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna kill this. I'm doing so well. And really what you want to know you did your best 20-minute power test and you paced it correctly is you want your first 10 minutes and your second 10 minutes to be almost accurate. Like the same, basically. Not accurate. You want them to be the same power. So if I'm shooting for 360, I want my first 10 minutes to be 360, and I want my second 10 minutes to be 360. But I also want to be completely gassed by the end of that 20 minutes. I don't like, you want to basically feel like you're sprinting, but only holding, that wattage, 360 watts, for example. So yeah, the first 5 minutes I was like, yeah, I'm going to crush it. But then once we got into like minute 8 and minute 9, I was like, dude, I can't hold this. And that's what I mean by I paced it terribly. So you're going to see, my power is super great right now, but once we get into minute 12, 13, 14, you're going to see it drop significantly. And that's not what you want, because that's not really testing. The whole point of a 20-minute test is see basically what you can hold for an hour. So you do 20 minutes as hard as you can, and then you take 95% of that number. So you take the number, multiply it by 0.95, and that's essentially what you should be able to hold for 1 hour. And the reason we don't go out and do like a max 1 hour effort is because there's not many roads where you have like a full hour of like non-stopping, basically. And I'm gonna get into this in a well, I guess I'll talk about it right now. If you're going out and doing these tests, make sure you find a road where there's not any stop signs, not any stoplights, minimal traffic. And sometimes that's hard to find. If you live in like a big city, what I used to do is just find a block in like a neighborhood or just somewhere close by that you can just ride around in circles, basically. And if you're taking right turns, so if you're, hopefully there's like a shoulder or something you can go in, and that way, you can, if there's a stop sign, you can at least take it close to the shoulder where there's not going to be any cars. And that way you can at least hold consistent power. You may lose a couple watts, but again, like I said earlier, if you're losing 2, 3, 4 watts, in the long run, it doesn't really matter that much. So that's one tip to do your best 20-minute power is you want just if you can find a straight road like this, do that. One thing I didn't like about this road is there was a lot of bridges, and I seemed to hold like a lot of power going up, and then I would have to like recover on the way down, which again is not what you want. You kind of just want consistent. So if you're going to do it up a climb, you want just like a consistent grade. You don't want like 20% and then 5%, So really, and also if you're going to do it up a climb, I would expect your workouts to be with a lot of climbing. So, because otherwise I feel like your workouts are not going to be as accurate as they should be, like the accurate power numbers. So yeah, sometimes you feel like you can do a lot more power on climbs because you have that like gravity you're working against, and it like forces you to not stop pedaling. But if you're doing all your workouts on the flats, the power may be higher than what you can do on the flats. So In my opinion, if you're trying to do this to get stronger for yourself, then you want to do your 20-minute test where you're going to do your workouts. And that's also why I chose not to work out or do this test with like headphones on, because most of the time I don't ride around and do my workouts with headphones on. So I don't want that actual I don't want that, that motivation, that extra motivation basically to, do more power, because then my workouts are going to be harder than they should be. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. But if you want to do your best power ever, then yeah, do it with headphones. Another tip that I don't believe is anywhere on YouTube, because this was like a personal study I was involved in while in college. A graduate, this wasn't like an official study, but it was like for his thesis or capstone for a graduate student. So he got probably like 20 or 25 cyclists. So this was at Indiana University. So there's a bunch of cyclists that do Little 5 and stuff. So we're always training, and you can always find, fit athletes. And you can see here, my power is like under 300 now, so that's not good. So what I was saying is, he got a bunch of athletes, and we had to do 40-kilometer time trials. And we didn't have any power, any speed, any heart rate. It was just you and the bike, and go as hard as you can go for 40 kilometers. You could see your distance. That was about it. And while we're doing this time trial, we had to basically rinse our mouths with either carbohydrate solution or a fake carbohydrate solution. So we didn't like swallow it or anything. You just swish it around in your mouth and then spit it out. And basically what he was testing is, if you have carbohydrate in your mouth, like not even swallowing it, does that increase performance? And the funny thing was, when I finished the test, he said everyone that he tested so far, where you just, swish around the carbohydrate in your mouth, he said those tests were always significantly faster than the fake solution, basically. So what does that mean? It means, obviously, on like a 20-minute test, it's not long enough where it would really matter. But if you are in a crit or something, I always put just like a little bit of sugar in my bottles, or at least one of them, just to have like, I don't know, that extra bit of energy, I guess. It's kind of like a marginal gain thing, but he said it definitely, everyone did faster. So I always put a little bit of sugar in my water bottles, just to have that little bit of, extra help. So yeah, you saw the last average power around 10 minutes dropped significantly from the first 5 minutes. It was probably down to like 20 watts. And here at this point, I'm like about to quit. I'm like, there is no way I can do another 6 minutes of this. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. It's kind of like a climb, like doing this test on a climb. But if you're into like a headwind, I always feel like I can push less power. I don't know what it is, but if I'm in a tailwind, I always feel like I can push more watts. And I don't know if that's just because I'm in like a bigger gear or what, but I don't know. So right now I have a headwind, like a head crosswind from the right side of the road. So that was not super fun, but is what it is. And I'm also kind of worried because in like a couple miles, there is a construction area where there's tends to be a lot of traffic, and I really didn't want to get caught up in that. So, and you can see 15 minutes, 3:59. So, from the first 5 minutes to now, dropped, 30 watts basically. So yeah, I didn't want to get caught in that construction. So I end up turning around with like 2 minutes left, which was like the worst decision ever. And also at the worst point you can see in like a minute and a half here where I turn around. But when you're going like full gas, your decision making kind of goes down a little bit, and that's kind of what I'm trying to be better at this next season, is just like be smarter on the bike, use my attacks efficiently. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the Lantern Rouge YouTube channel, but if you haven't, check him out. He has honestly the best breakdowns of pro cycling races, like anywhere on YouTube, I think. Anywhere on the internet, probably. Like, they're so good and so in-depth, so like the analysis he does is so in-depth, and I feel like I'm just learning a lot by watching his videos. So go check him out. Yeah, because one thing I'm trying to do, and part of the reason I make these videos, is just to like recap the races I do and see what I could have done differently. And after watching his videos, I have like a new perspective of like trying to, like, I watched a couple of my old videos and I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done 900 watts out of this corner just to move up 2 wheels. Like, you have to like look at it that way. Like, every watt is precious basically, and you want to save as many as you can. So yeah, here's the terrible turnaround I did on like some metal grates that yeah, that was not too smart. And again, you don't want to be surging like I just did. You want to have consistent power through the whole thing, and that's how you really get your most accurate measurement. So yeah, I'm just looking through my videos again and realizing like how I could race differently, because I'm not as strong as some of the guys out there, and you're never going to be the strongest out there, but you can be the smartest. So that's kind of what that's like one of my 2020 goals, is to just be smarter on the bike. And here you go, 18 minutes in, 352 watts. Not great, but I'm still 2 watts ahead of my last test, which again, I only did 2 weeks of base training between the two tests. So it's not like I have been training threshold or anything like that. So I'm going to be really interested to see what happens 4 weeks from now, because I have 3 weeks of threshold and like zone 5 VO2 max work. So I think I'm going to do really well, honestly. Like, I'm super motivated this year to do well in races and such. And yeah, so my best ever power was 359 for 20 minutes, and I was probably a little bit lighter. I'm like 178 now. I was like 174 before Thanksgiving, and I kind of blew it, but is what it is. We'll get back down there. I'm usually at like 168 peak race season, so I think I can get down to that, especially doing intervals. Like 168 is a like safe number for me, where I'm not starving basically. So yeah, almost finishing this up. And these last 2 minutes, I'm like, all right, I just need to dig deep. You can see my heart rate's back up to 170. And I'm basically just holding 400 watts to try to get this up. But yeah, I think I'm going to blow through my 359 record in like probably in the next test, honestly. Because this test, you'll see in a second, I held 354 for 20 minutes. So that's the test. But obviously I could have paced it better. I think I could have done 360. And yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if you got any tips from this, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.